Before MBC could breed X-Men, the Children of the Atom had to give its first steps. This was the first time Capcom and Marvel had a collaboration for a fighting game entry, although this time they really didn't use original art that much.
X-Men!
But we can already see in the sprite world with the bigger sizes of the hands and feet that is starting to have its own art style. Focusing on the fighting game visuals, while still trying to appeal to the art of the comic that inspired the game. In fact, most of the art used for this ancient game was from that comic titled Fatal Attractions. Akira Yasuda, art director for Darkstalkers, was part of the character design. He had a huge amount of knowledge about the original characters. Alongside Katsuya Akitomo and Eri Nakamura, that will redefine the aspect of those Marvel superheroes. Big fists that will only get bigger, resembling a bit to what we see in Street Fighter. Plus a bulky upper body, with defined muscles for everyone. Like, through gender equality, yeah. The sprite world will showcase some of its own style. The whole lot of work put in the art of this game was the root for what was about to come. This and Marvel superheroes from the 1995. The great contrast in the backgrounds that due to the lack of contrast of shadows within the sprites, help each action to stand out more. In fact, this game compared to the next ones, had more frames in its sprites. Believe it or not. Marvel superheroes is where we began to see how the sizes of the fists and even the limbs will only grow a bit bigger. Like compare Captain America to characters like Psylocke or Cyclops. Even Iron Man has muscles to show and he's supposed to be the young man. This game still uses art from the comics directly into its selection menus. But you can see that even the selection is slowly evolving into a roster selection we will see later on. This time it has a more urban look, which makes the New York heroes work so well in this context in my opinion. Also, here's where we see more of the blue in color that means justice and kindness, somewhat. So it makes a lot of sense that said color will only get more and more focus as the entries came in. Now these scenarios have more layers. You can see each layer having its own animation that makes everything more lively, an evolution from the previous game, this time taking away some of your attention just to appreciate it. The HUD may stand out a little less this time you play, but it's quickly saved by the comic-like font they use. Yeah, it's slowly looking more like Marvel vs Capcom. Except that... But if I told you that those HUD aspects will only disappear right at the next entry? Yeah, the game kinda uses some greens and way too minimalistic life bars, but they wanted to show the life bars of each character in your team all the time, without focusing in one, and that will make this look kinda bad. Yeah, but that's not important. We have reached X-Men vs Street Fighter.
X-Men vs Street Fighter!
This is where you can see the vibrant colors and minions of the next entries. The spatial aspect of the choose your character screen. The blue that symbolizes the heroic profile of the characters. Also, the people that work for Street Fighter 3 Alpha also work for the art in this game, so the character designs have similar proportions. That and reusing sprites of both franchises helped them make the perfect crossover when it comes to not clashing against each other art style. As I have said before, the Marvel superheroes now had an aspect more akin to a fighting game character, and now we can have the perfect comparison. So well, and we finally reached one of my favorite artists, Naoto Kuroshima, better known as Bengus. Just look at the art and the way Bengus portrayed each character to have more soft round faces that enabled the team to create better facial expressions, like the shape of the cheek, the square-headed skull with soft corners, and the bulky bodies. Something special about the early games was the exaggerated proportions by Akira Yasuda. Well, here Bengus did just that, although you can differentiate his style just perfectly. Look at the softness of the corners, the facial expressions and the facial structure. Now, as you have seen, they stopped using art ripped from the comics, which is great, slowly building an identity. Because right next, in Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter, the same visuals built in the previous entry are more exaggerated in this entry.
Are you ready, true believers? Capcom and Marvel have joined forces once again to bring you in Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter!
There's more life even before fighting. Finally returning to the yellow focus HUD, and the life bars are not cannibalizing each other anymore. The blue special aspect keeps being present. We are talking about Avengers level threat after all. ¿Que no tiene sentido? Like seriously, we have to see how Bengus' art looks before being worked for the game itself. The sketch is simply so clean, and you can see how he interprets each character with simple body language. The way he emphasizes shadows more now, playing more with contrast and different saturations, leaning more to purple and darker colors to stand out more to the brighter. The way he emphasizes shadows more now, playing more with the contrast and different saturations, but his bodies were more stylized now, almost cartoonish, let's say. For example, I can believe Chun-Li moves like a bubblegum because of his art style. Something we can say is that due to this, everyone looks less muscular than before. With all the ingredients for an identity, we can reach our first entry. Now, as Bengus has been established, for what's to come.
Marvel vs. Capcom!
Something to say first, the backgrounds follow the same principle of having so much life going on. Like, come on, it has more life than some 3D games even. Using more saturation and contrast on its tones, like greens, orange and blues. And of course more particles, that we already saw in the previous entry. Although now it's everywhere, selection screen, particles and space. Special attack, particles and space. Entry screen, yeah, you get my point. Everything became more flashy, and this was defined as the dream crossover. Characters that you will never knew will be together, if you live in that time, I guess. In fact, you can tell that Marvel characters are the same sprites from before. Venom though, that Venom has to be my favorite design. This is from when he became an anti-hero, or more like a hero. In fact, so the blue tones depict him as an heroic figure. Remember, blue means justice. So it's been a while since we began to see blue and yellow in this now, let's say, started franchise. By the way, Kinu Nishimura art for this promo art is also incredible. Can I have this for dinner? The liner of Bengus was now more sketchy and messy, looking thinner and almost everywhere. We return to a more flat way of coloring, and the sketchy lines make it look more traditional. In fact, the previous entry focused on making each of their skills be known, but here, it's more about their heroic personalities. That Gambit is my favorite alongside the cute Chun-Li, they are so cute, man. And the Morrigan one always makes me laugh. I know it's supposed to be lewd, but to me it was always like she was making fun of her opponent. By the way, before 2 years ago I always thought they were going to be vampires and not so quick. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the cover now, of course, is one of the most iconic. It's basically become so recognizable that many were inspired to make their own version. Oh no, Roll, can you please look to where everyone is looking? You are messing this up. The composition plays with the idea of two domains separated by an invisible line in the middle, playing with the body structure of everyone and the contrast in their designs to make a ladder-like design. Yeah, a new age of heroes is here, yeah baby. We're talking about Marvel vs Capcom 2. This time the HUD went back to X-Men vs Street Fighter, Yeah, the green bars and the lack of focus on the bars depending on who you use. It's a downgrade really. The backgrounds are now 3D, and that's because of Sega Naomi. It's Dreamcast technology, baby. The backgrounds lack sprite work now. Some of their layers look like directly scanned art. Really, it looks blurry compared to the sprite work of the characters. Everything is so 3D, it looks more like a product of its age, which is not a bad thing. The blue tones are still here, although the aesthetic is more neon, showcasing violet and blue. Look at the character selection screen. It's literally a planet, so the spatial aspect is still there. Outside of the hood or HUD, artistic wise, it's one of my favorites, because each character full body art and the cover looks like it was done in papyrus. Using colors with low opacity, almost like watercolors, while still keeping a full saturated shade of black for all the line work and hatch lines that create volume and shading. Like looking at a manga, this makes it stand out so much. It really seems like a pirate made this art, which connects well with Ruby Heart, being a pirate and the one that guides our heroes throughout the story. Did you know at first he was going to be a character for Darkstalkers? But such idea was rejected, or I don't really know what happened with such idea. In the end credits, it's portrayed even better, with the water in the background and the multiple arts that only have the messy, sketchy line art. The art being so messy looks so old, so much less careful while still showing how skilled artist Bengus is. Facial expressions are more simple now, and lack volume, so that may be good or bad for you. In my case, this is one of the best art styles in the series. Now Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which, yeah, so Bengus is gone, no more Akira, and yeah, but we still keep the blue colors and the particles are back, and the cel-shaded models appeal to the style of the comics. The issue will be that everyone looks so out of their source material that what even is the point? Thanks to the way the models are done, sometimes the contour of their bodies can be used to reflect brightness, such as the red of the special attacks, or the damage they receive. The renders now focus more on showing you black shades, like the pure black, just like the comics. And there's not a coexistence in this, because we know that Marvel got way more into the development, frustrating the developers into focusing more on Marvel, axing the time they had, and the way the colors work made this the perfect 3D entry in a portable device. Although there's not much character design identity from the previous game, we do have a reversible cover, one made by Mark Books, showcasing that more western look, and the front cover, done by Shinkiro, featuring his cel-shaded art that has a lot of volume and interesting realistic facial expressions. That guy still scares me. The red is the focus here, and we do see that a lot in the gameplay. The Kurofuse art direction does appear to be visible, not only in how Shinkiro did the cover, but also each render of the characters, which does give the same cel-shaded contrast as the Phoenix Wright games for the 3DS. So, come on, well, let's be honest, we were all here because of Bengus.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite returns to its roots by giving everyone a more saturated and exaggerated looks. The color palette is more vibrant, and look at Venom being blue again, and Captain America's suit as well, and yeah, someone is calling. Yeah, Reaper at the dog, yeah. What do you mean this is just a mod? Yeah, anyway, that was all for today, guys. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, if you like me. I mean the video, not me, yeah.